heading into Rings of Power discussion.
I should
The
have
Rings
wore a
of
ring.
Power launched on Amazon
I've got
to whopping numbers of 25 million viewers.
Yeah. So for context,
Dude, we should have made it so you could like actually
I
just
know,
look through it.
right?
That'd have been cool.
that is
It's so heavy.
The same number of viewers that the first episode of House of the Dragon had after a week. Rings of Power had in a day.
Oh, did you want it?
Sure.
It's so heavy with the weight.
Which
of
I think
evil.
just speaks to the
I work with a guy who has this wedding band.
the power of that brand of Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty impressive stuff. Do you know where I got that ring? How I told you?
Target.
Scholastic Book Reading Club.
So-
Scholastic Book Fair.
For my... Ooh, I don't remember which birthday
Target.
it was. So whatever birthday...
Did it come with the bookmark? You
No.
just cut it off and put it on a chain?
Walmart.
So for my birthday, I think it was...
Amazon.com.
The Shire.
Y'all...
TheOneRing.net.
Let me go get my sword and...
I'm gonna go get my Harley Quinn inflatable hammer.
Okay, so...
Oh, yeah, I remember that thing.
Whichever year that Return of the King came out, my birthday is in January, at the very beginning of January, and it came out in December. So for that birthday, my parents took me and about 10 of my friends to the midnight premiere of Return of the King here in Wichita. And
And you stole it from a small child.
so they had a couple of these that they were like handing out. And this was high school? Middle school? I don't know. At the time. What?
So
He's playing with his t-shirt
I have
because it's a shark.
I have a shark on my shirt. And so I'm trying to like level it up with my computer. Shark's gone. Sorry.
A visual gag for our audio listeners interrupting my story.
It's a
Thank you
visual gag
so much.
live on Twitch.
Yes. Come hang out.
My girlfriend at the time asked the theater manager if she could have one to give to me. So, like, in front of the theater before the movie started, they were like, and for, Brett Heitzen celebrating his birthday here tonight, woo, everyone clapped and cheered, and then they gave me this. So Return of the King,
that was like 30
midnight
years ago.
premiere, 100 years ago.
I dare you to click that link.
No. It's a .gov. It's got to be safe, right?
Wait, there's a MiddleEarth.gov?
I'm not clicking on it. I'll let you do that. Yeah, so I guess that was a very long-winded way to get to Rings
It
of
wouldn't have
Power.
been. It would not have been long-winded had I not been interrupted by a shark story.
Jaws was back in theaters this past weekend. I'm just staying with the times.
Okay,
It's a
fair
shark,
enough.
man.
Ba-dum.
Rings of Power came out. What did you guys think?
It did. It came out.
First 2 episodes
Yes.
dropped on the 1st of September.
This is a show that I was extremely nervous for.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so pleasantly surprised with how much it delivered for me. Pretty much on every level.
Yeah, I loved it. Who was it at the beginning of the show mentioned happy to be back in Middle Earth? That perfectly sums up my feelings.
Yes.
Indeed.
And then the final little note I have is there's not a character I don't like, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Like with most fantasy shows, there's characters you're just like, yeah, I don't really care about that.
Mhm.
I'd rather just move on from this part of the show. But I didn't feel like that in these 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice.
Yep, agreed. It's a lot of setup. I think I heard maybe the most. There's a lot of trolling and
Review bombing.
review bombing on the internet, but I think one criticism I heard that I could believe was that it felt pretty slow. It was maybe a little boring, but these first 2 episodes were very much set up, and I mean, it's taking its time. It's a 5-season show. This isn't a hey, we're one and done.
Mm-hmm.
They're already working on season 2, aren't
Season
they?
2 is well underway and, filming, or if not done. They're filming in England, I think, this time. Not New Zealand. There's some drama there.
Tax drama.
Arendelle Star in the chat said, I basically squeaked the entire time. Yes.
The amount of goosebumps I got
Yeah.
was insane.
It's
Like, there's the
it's-
little intro Galadriel is talking about in the beginning. I was just like, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, I think the cast, like you said, the characters are all good. I think the cast embody those characters really well, especially the ones that are kind of coming back. Obviously, Elrond, Celebrimbor, and Galadriel were all kind of secondary. I mean, in a way, maybe tertiary characters in the Lord of the Rings. We only got to maybe see one kind of aspect of them. But I think
Was
these
Celebrimbor
actors,
in the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
I do not remember him.
He's in the Mordor game too.
He's in. Where is he at?
Isn't he in? Is he in the Two Towers?
No.
Is he the one who
Celebrimbor.
repairs Anduril?
No, isn't he? He's the one with Galadriel.
Oh, in Lothlorien?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I may be mistaken.
I
there.
have no idea. I don't even know if they ever say his name in the movie.
I could be wrong. But I will know in a moment because I Googled it, and
Google's good at like finding stuff, man.
it is pretty good.
It's better than Siri. Siri just takes you to Google.
Portrayals and adaptations.
He's
video
in.
games.
He's in Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor.
Maybe not.
He's
is
the
that
one
elf?
in the forest.
Who is that elf?
Is he in the Hobbit movies and not?
No, it's not Lee Pace's character.
We're gonna spend some time looking up where he fits.
Oh, Celeborn. My mistake.
Okay.
Boo.
You know what? I'll allow it because those are very similar.
It's almost like fantasy naming conventions.
Right.
Confusing or
Oh
something.
my goodness.
Maybe he's
Okay.
Celebrimbor's son.
Probably.
Could
And he's
be.
just like, I'm just gonna take a shorter name.
He is in the games though.
Okay, so
Like pretty central to the story of
Yeah.
the video games.
yeah. One of the things I love, you kind of talked about like Goosebumps and stuff. If you know anything about the Silmarillion, which this show
Hand me that.
is not about. This takes place during the Second Age. The show, the Silmarillion, takes place during the First Age. So but the intro of the first episode had so many little things in there that if you knew what you were looking for, it was great.
I think I'm too
So this
stupid
book
to-
is like Morgoth, Golgoroth.
This is like a almost
Morg-
like an appendix of information.
Yeah, I mean it really is. It's kind of a.
I'm probably too stupid to read this book.
I guarantee I am.
It's more like a textbook.
Oh my gosh.
But they have some narrative in there.
You're a
And,
narrative.
narrative storytelling in there. What did you guys have a favorite moment? All of it?
Yeah, the moment where I hit play on the first episode.
I guess we're not doing any spoilers, so if it's a spoiler moment, don't say anything.
I think just hitting play on the first episode and it starting and immediately feeling like I was right back where I was all those years ago is just so refreshing.
Yeah.
Without getting in the weeds and talking too much details, but I guess character moments was meeting Arendir, the elf. Isn't that how you say his name? Let me see if I butchered this. Yeah, Arendir.
Arendir.
Yep. He's the elf soldier.
Yeah.
The one with the watch, the
the one
watch
hang-
guard.
the watch,
hanging
yeah.
out in Middle Earth.
Mhm.
Yep. I think just meeting him and kind of anything
they're all-
he did between the two across the two episodes were probably my favorite moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, he's great. I really like his demeanor as a character, as well as I just love that his motivation is really simple.
He likes a girl.
Yeah, he's in love and
There's
but he's also like not. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's heavy-handed. Like he loves a woman, but he's always he wants to do what's right.
part of
He's just like a very good person.
what Lord of the Rings is as like kind of a high fantasy story is that often characters are really driven by honor and duty, and it's kind of and Game of Thrones plays on the opposite. It's like people are selfish. People do what they want. And so sometimes, especially in movies, because there's just not a lot of time to explore those deep personal things, high fantasy characters feel very like, I'm a stick in the mud. And I am doing my thing because it's just who I am. And there's not a lot of dimension there. And I'm really excited to see how these characters show that balance of, I have a simple want or a simple need. Gladriel's is pretty bound in honor at this point, but like you said, especially some of these invented characters, they're characters who were not in any texts of Tolkien's beforehand. I think they have a lot of room to really explore what are some of those personal needs and desires that they have and can play with throughout the series.
Speaking of Galadriel, I freaking love her, and I love the actress that is playing her. Mainly because it's like spot on to a young Cate Blanchett.
Yes, dude. Oh my.
There's
gosh,
a shot
that's
where they like
crazy.
just show her face right here, and it's like I think they might have gotten Cate Blanchett for that one.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, and going back and watching Fellowship today, I was like, this is so odd. So odd.
Yeah, and I just think she's great.
She nails.
I like her voice too. I find it very soothing.
There's
I like listening to her talk.
there's a part when kind of after her initial little adventure, she's back in the forest with Elrond, and they're having this conversation.
I like Elrond too.
And the
funny.
way she presents herself, the way she stands, the way she turns, it's so Cate Blanchett. It's so Galadriel.
It's so Galadriel.
but it adds to that illusion. It
Yeah.
adds to that
Royalty type feel.
yeah.
Regal.
Regal. There you go.
The
I
regal
got you.
myth.
Got you, babe.
Yeah, I guess secondary moment for me is breaking the rocks in
Yeah.
Singer Target. I don't remember what it's called.
in Khazad-dûm.
Oh yeah, they went there, and I was like,
Yeah.
something bad's gonna happen here.
Also, super cool to see that like alive.
Yeah, dude, it was so
It
pretty.
was awesome.
Yeah. I loved that. Because I feel like a traditional, like, I think what Peter Jackson did worked really well
Yeah.
for Khazad-dûm and even the
Moria?
Lonely Mountain.
Okay, yeah.
But this felt like here's a dwarven city that's being lived in.
Yeah.
And how they used light in there, and they had,
There's greenery.
water and greenery and life, and it felt really, really good.
Yeah, it was cool.
And maintain that aesthetic that we know and love.
Yeah, and I think if you've not watched Lord of the Rings recently, like watching, because I watched Rings of Power episode 1, and then I watched Fellowship between that and episode 2, and my enjoyment was enhanced by it a lot after watching Fellowship, especially going back to Khazad-dûm. It's
Yeah.
like, man, this is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a perfect parallel, but I'd recommend that experience.
Yeah.
It was cool.
For sure. Real quick, something we haven't really talked about: visuals and music.
So here's something interesting. I think it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The main theme during the opening credits, it's fine, which is what Howard Shore did, who did all the music in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But I think Bear McCreary is crushing it.
Absolutely.
That's who did this?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what he's done, he did God of War, the video game soundtrack, the newest one, and he did King of the Monsters.
Yep.
The movie for King of the Monsters, whatever, but that soundtrack
It
slaps. It's so good.
You should check this out. He did some blogs about scoring it.
Ooh.
I feel like that's like right up your alley.
I follow a
Yeah.
few people on music, like orchestra music Twitter, and like they do like deep dives into themes and leitmotifs, and they're eating up his work. And I think it just goes to show like there are like music matters, and if you do it right, it can really have an impact beyond, oh, that sounded cool.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's really impressive that I thought Howard Shore was doing all the music.
Mm.
And then I finished the first episode and his name popped up and I was like, oh wow. Freaking good job, dude. It was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to address Dead Fist in the chat here. He says, "Call me a bad fan, but I only enjoyed the intro and the dwarfs. The rest I was about." I don't think that makes you a bad fan
No.
at all. It's okay to have an opinion on something that's not positive.
I think
it's
you would
just how you
I
put
think it would
that
be
opinion
worse
out
if you
there.
just like lied about liking it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that this is a little bit like watching The Fellowship of the Ring. Watching the first 20 minutes of Fellowship of the Ring and being like, man, I really enjoyed that intro battle scene, but like then I got to the Hobbit stuff and it was kind of boring.
Yeah.
But like you haven't watched
That's-
the rest of the movie.
that's where we're
and
at,
I can
yeah.
totally understand like, yeah, we're still in setup.
Yep.
Give it a couple more episodes. Just see how it starts flowing. Maybe it will still be kind of meh for you, but
Yeah.
chances are, as we get into the main conflict of this story, it's gonna start getting real crazy.
Plus, like, as going back to the Lord of the Rings comparison, we're getting a lot more. Where, like, if this was Lord of the Rings, we'd be getting backstories for Gimli and Legolas and everybody else that's in the Fellowship.
Yeah.
Whereas they kind of just tell you it real quick in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of just there to fight stuff.
Yep.
But since it's a show, they're expanding a lot more.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
And speaking of it getting to like awesome stuff, one of the big differences, you know, and I talked to Luke about this earlier because I ran into Luke at a coffee shop this morning.
That was
Completely
kind of
unplanned.
hilarious.
Then the Shire stuff is the best.
The action is definitely ticked up. Like we don't get a lot of it, but it's a lot more intense in this than it was back in the movies. And that was kind of the expectation. I didn't think I expected it to be as violent. Like when they fight in the cave at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was a pretty.
Yeah, there was
brutal.
blood.
There was blood.
There's blood splatter.
Like a jaw was cut in half. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. This is cool. I like it.
It's the TV helps because TV ratings you can get a little more with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like TV 14 is like can be R, it's just without the language. And TVMA is definitely worse than R.
Oh,
most of the
yeah.
time.
And if you're on cable television, as long as you start after 8 p.m.
Well, you got to
the
remember,
K does come off
you
a
know,
little bit.
20 years ago, you know, making a PG-13 movie 20 years ago is different than making a PG-13 movie even today.
Yes.
So,
Say that again to me, that it came out 20 years ago.
20 years ago, Luke.
Oh my gosh.
You're old.
You're old.
We're
Old.
We're all old. I did want to talk a little bit about the Hobbits.
The Harfoots?
The Harfoots. No, I really enjoyed Nori. I think the Hobbits have been. I was talking with
I have one complaint about Nori.
someone this week about how the Hobbits are maybe one of the things that make Tolkien's world so unique from other fantasy things. And the almost pure and idealized nature of them, at least in Lord of the Rings, I thought I always really appreciated. And is something moving back there?
No, I'm just looking at your.
Oh,
books.
okay.
There's a ghost.
And I thought this kind of was the Harfoots as kind of a early proto Hobbit, I guess. I'm liking their little culture that we're seeing. The kind of these nomads that have to pick up and just move around, but they're living off the land and they're doing their thing, and they don't really want to be in anyone's business, and that remains true throughout their evolution. But they're always caught up into it because of they can't not help people.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least there's always someone who can't not help someone.
Yeah.
There's always one of them.
I think my only complaint about Nori, right? Nori?
Yeah.
And this is not a character complaint. This is not an actress complaint. This is more of a production complaint.
Why do you hate it?
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
How dare they? I think they should lighten up a little bit on her makeup for the show. It's very, very evident that her makeup is a little more overdone than other characters. Small bone to pick. Doesn't take anything away from the show, but it is. I do notice it when she's on screen.
That's fair.
Especially in episode 2 with The Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
it's
like this feels weird.
This is gonna be a bad comparison, but it's a little bit like in The Hobbit when all of a sudden like half of the dwarves were like these young, strapping, attractive.
Yeah, because everybody else is kind of like
no, dwarves are like these like
kind of bigger, burly, husky.
That's
people,
not what they are, but you do it because it's their main characters, and they need to be they need to look good on posters, and I kind of feel that as like a main character, they're maybe making Nori just stand out a little bit.
Yeah, because like you look at the
it's a little bit too much, maybe.
I didn't notice. What the heck, Tyler? You hate it.
It's just noticeable, like because the rest of the Harfoots are a little more rugged and dirty because they're nomadic.
Yeah.
Again, has no impact on my enjoyment of the show. It's just something I noticed it once and then I couldn't stop noticing it. And I was like, frick. I wish I hadn't noticed that. It's kind of like the pink stain on the IMAX screen here in Wichita. I pointed it out to
One
Luke.
little spot. Oh,
like
why
10
would
minutes.
you do that?
Well, I thought he had seen it.
You're gonna ruin
10 minutes later, he's like, dude, I hate you. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
You know what? I had forgotten about it.
Well, I'm glad I could remind you. Just don't see anything in IMAX for a couple weeks. You'll forget.
I'm gonna accidentally dump all my popcorn all over your lap.
Just watch a dark movie. As long as the screen's dark, it's not noticeable.
It just can't be super bright.
What's the next Snyder movie that's coming to IMAX?
Oh, God. Nothing. He's making movies for Netflix now.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You
mentioned visuals.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
Me too.
The show is costing $1 billion.
It looks like it.
But that's not per episode.
It's $60 million per episode.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I thought it looked really good.
Remember how I talked about ballooning budgets earlier? I'm not gonna complain about this one. And I will eat that cake.
What a hypocrite.
Is fine. Throw the shade my way.
But it's just one of the things that feels so like Lord of the Rings to me. Is when you get that sweeping shot over a mountain landscape and there's just people walking up it.
Yes.
So simple.
It's such a simple thing, and I'm sure other movies have done it, but for some reason, if it's like to Lord of the Rings music and there's a elf woman talking to you in the background, it just hits different.
I also loved it, visually, the little transitions they do with the map. Big fan of those. Glad those are around still.
Yeah, it does, and I think it helps ground you where you're at. There was one of them that I was like, ooh, I think I know what they're doing in the future with that.
Wait, with
based
what?
on a map thing.
Oh, okay.
Where people were and how it's transitioned, and how what they were talking about, where they were going. In any case, I thought it was maybe a nice little hint. So I'm hoping my hypothesis is correct.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
God.
Yeah. 60. Sorry, Easton over in the chat. 60 mil per episode is too much.
No, he's got to defend it.
I agree, but I'll allow it.
I agree, but I'll allow it.
Lord of the Rings is worth it.
I do hope it doesn't. I think the trend was already started, but I hope it doesn't. Game of Thrones started the trend. Let's be clear. The big budget streaming shows, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones kicked that off. I hope it doesn't get too crazy. There's a few companies that I think have handled things well. Apple's one of those that I think has made some visually stunning shows, super high production value. I don't know what their cost per episode on Foundation was, but it would have been news if it was this crazy high.
Penny for your time.
So, and then obviously Stranger Things as well has kind of gone that direction, but it's always a give and take with what.
I don't think
what you can do.
This might be a take. I don't know. I don't mind it with this because they want to put as much as they can into it. You go watch the show on Amazon, you finish it, and what do you see? You see the terminal list pop up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I really like Lord of the Rings. Let's check out this other Amazon show. And then you just keep going down the list.
Yeah. That's the business mentality behind it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right, Easton. And at a certain point, like, you probably don't need it to make the quality of show that it is.
Peter Jackson didn't need it.
But because of the...
What's $125 million back then compared to now for those three movies? Because I mean, it's like
Yeah,
inflation's a thing.
I don't know. But part of it is studios are less willing to take chances, so they're going to make sure that they're not going to give this a $30 million seasonal budget, and when they invested 450 million in acquiring the rights, right? Like it's part of it's to protect your investment. Part of it is also it's a big enough IP that people can, to a certain degree, you negotiate around that, right? Like there's a reason why Knives Out 2 and 3 sold for as high as they did, and it's because
Netflix is bad at business.
Because Knives Out made money, right? Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings is gonna make money, and so you want to put value into it. And what do you find?
I was looking up the budget for all 3 Lord of the Rings movies combined, and it's about, I don't know, 5 episodes worth of.
About half a season.
Yeah, about half a season.
Oh, all right. So, I want to circle back a little bit to what you talked about with the visuals. I've been very impressed that everything has looked like it's fit into the Lord of the Rings. The sweeping vistas, the cities. In episode 3, we're going to an ancient human city. I'm very, very excited. So excited to see what they do there. But I felt I just felt that everything fits. Nothing stood out as like, oh, that doesn't belong here. Even their Undying Land stuff felt very grounded in probably what I always imagined, based on what Peter Jackson and that team gave us 20 years ago. JT over in the chat, I wonder if Amazon's license was for 5 seasons or if they will have to renew with Embracer.
That's what we were talking about earlier, Luke.
And if the next seasons will suffer.
The rights for Lord of the Rings stuff is so confusing.
It's very complicated. So I don't. Yeah, I
have no idea.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it was for. I want to. They've made a commitment for 5 seasons. I don't know how that works out with licensing and what they've already. If that was a public commitment or if that was a contractual agreement that they have to make stuff. Generally, though, if you have the rights to make things, you have those rights until you don't make things for a number of years, or a certain cutoff date comes. So they may have done like a 10 years worth of rights for these parts of the stories, and then after that they may have to renew, or it could be an indefinite until they stop making things for it. I don't know.
I think with any acquisition of anything of this sort, though, if you have a contract for rights, that contract is generally honored for the most part.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff like this.
Gosh, I
Yeah.
hope so.
I mean, you kind of see it in the video game world,
Unless you're Warner Bros. Discovery.
like when Xbox bought Bethesda.
Bethesda,
They
yeah.
still let Deathloop be a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Yeah.
It's like that contract already existed.
Right.
I think Lord of the Rings being at Amazon, that contract exists. I think Embracer would be smart to let that be, because at worst they're going to get a percentage share.
Yeah.
Oh no, we got money.
We got paid because a company with way more money than us took care of something we now own. Dang it. This cost us nothing.
Yeah.
Fellowship of the Ring costs $93, which you looked up,
Yep.
and that's $155 in today dollars,
Yep.
which is only slightly less than $1 million a minute. That's kind of crazy. About where the new shows are at.
I'm glad someone who does
Arendelle
math,
Star, you're the man.
Thank you for doing the math for
who
us.
does math good did it for me, because I am a picture person.
That's kind of awesome.
I could have done the math because I am an accountant. I do Excel math quite a bit, but I didn't want to.
Anything before I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you guys.
Let's go
as
into
they
it.
pertain to the show.
If there's anyone in the chat with questions or things you want to talk about that we haven't yet, shoot them at us while we're talking about our questions here.
So my first question gets into spoiler territory, so I'll be vague.
Okay.
Who do you think the stranger is?
It's Elsie Bray. Gonna get any Destiny references as I can.
Oh yeah. They're doing a good job at keeping things, dropping different hints, because there's some hints about like when the stranger lands. There's some discussion about like the fire they're around not being hot, and there's a mention earlier about fire not being hot because of certain evil has sucked all of the heat out of the area. So that that leans maybe more Sauron. I think there's also some imagery there. Lord of the Rings is certainly not, while not as on the nose as Narnia in terms of religious imagery.
A little bit of paradise.
We've got we've got some Lucifer being the fallen angel, falling as a star, falling from the sky imagery that could be collaborated there. At the same time, he does some things with the fireflies that are a little more Gandalf-esque, maybe a wizard.
Who's the wizard that was in the woods?
Radagast.
Yeah.
He does not fit that
He doesn't
character
fit that
at
mold.
all.
Yeah. I saw he's on somebody's list. I saw that on Twitter.
He's the
and I was
wizard
like,
that got out of the loony bin and just was allowed his death.
I think my top 2 picks are Sauron and Gandalf.
I think it's at the end of the day. I think it's Gandalf.
See, I lean the other way.
The other way?
At the end of the
yeah,
day,
I don't
think
know.
It's Sauron.
I don't know. That's what I love about what they've given us so far. It could be either.
We're talking about the one that's landed from the sky, GT.
Yes.
Because he's right. There's technically 2 strangers.
Oh, yes. Good point.
Yeah, Sauron and Gandalf, I think, is what everybody's going to. But I don't think it's Gandalf. I think if it is, it's either Sauron or another... What are they called? Mayer? They're what they are.
Yeah.
Because they're not wizards. They're like a
wizard.
super special race. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be a new one.
I also thought...
I've also heard an interesting theory.
Maybe Saruman was also
Yeah.
It crossed my mind.
I saw an interesting theory about how they think it's going to be the person that turns into the Balrog.
Oh.
Ooh.
Because I'm just reading stuff. I'm saying stuff that I saw random people write online, and I don't know if it's true. So I'll take any criticism whatsoever. But they're saying that those, like, the corrupted wizards, kind of like, or whatever that Sauron is, some of them turned into Balrogs, I guess.
Oh.
So
is that true?
Balrogs and wizards are kind of the same. They're at the same hierarchy. They're at the same
both
level.
They're both S tier.
Yeah. Yeah. The Balrogs are the most terrible of the Maiar spirits, who became the servants of Melkor, the Dark Enemy. Sorry, I have my Tolkien Dictionary book right here. How convenient!
I like Arendelle Starr's backing of your theory.
The wizard that loves the hobbits. That's I thought it was a nice parallel. Like,
I think
the reason Gandalf is so fond of hobbits is because there was a hobbit that saved him, took care of him.
Would Gandalf be around at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
He's old balls.
Yeah.
Wrinkly balls.
For sure. For sure he would be
around. I really enjoy not knowing any of the lore of this. It's really interesting to go into it.
That's pretty cool.
I really don't think any of the random people are Sauron. I'm pretty sure Sauron is just alive out there.
Yeah.
Just kind of hanging out.
I just don't think it's going to be as complicated as people think.
To me, it doesn't make as much sense for like Sauron, who's already on the ground on Middle Earth, to like suddenly fall from the sky.
True. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Which is,
right,
I
I'm
think they're
switching
doing
my
some
stance.
misdirection.
It's Gandalf.
Some misdirection there.
I'm with you.
All right, sweet.
I'm jumping on
I think
your
it's
caravan.
I think it's a random wizard, and maybe he
You're
learns.
a random wizard.
Thank you. I'd love to be a wizard.
Yo, wizard Harry.
Luke?
No, my name is Harry.
Oh, okay.
My grandpa's name is Harry. Oh gosh, that'd be awesome.
Carry on, keep going. Sorry.
It's gonna be a different wizard, one we don't know, and maybe he like is friends with Gandalf, and he's like, "Yo, these Harfoot Hobbit people are freaking cool, bro."
Yeah.
And that's like where he gets
Could
his
be.
trust.
It's Gandalf's dad. Gandalf Senior.
So you think it's a new
character.
a completely new character, not one of the, or is it one of the unnamed blue wizards?
It's like Billy Bob the Blue or something.
Okay, so one of the blue wizards.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
The other guy, the other stranger. Do you have a question about him?
No, but we can answer it there too.
I think he's the king of the men that is missing. I think he's Aragorn. The Aragorn role. Because they're like,
yes.
our king will return, blah, 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 blah. He ran away.
Yeah, I think he's the...
He has his little sigil on his necklace.
He's not of the Númenórean race, though.
Yeah.
He's an actual, like a current human,
Yeah.
not a high human, or whatever.
I literally like saw him.
One of the Dunedain Rangers. Blessed with a long life.
Oh, Arendelle Star, which we should acknowledge. Arendelle Star is a Lord of the Rings reference. The Balrog was dug out by the dwarves. The wizards are the last to arrive. All the other Mirror are just there. Yeah. I think, so you're talking timeline things. I will say, I'm not 100% sure how precise Amazon is going to be with the timeline. I think they have the liberty and are willing to probably fudge things a little bit. So, the fact that, technically all the, Gandalf shows up at the beginning of the Third Age or whatever.
How long is an age? Just a random question.
2,000 years?
Doesn't like Elrond when he's
For me,
fighting
it's
Saruman?
365 days. but I know that's not how it works in Fantasyland.
Like in the prequel, the intro for Fellowship, he's like, they're talking that story about when they went to Mordor and fought.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that like 3,000 years or something?
Yeah.
He's like,
JT said 3,000 years.
I was
believe.
there 3,000 years ago.
So
That sounds about right.
I still think that's where the show's gonna end.
So, where was Gandalf here? So, my dictionary here.
this is true.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
He was sent about the year 1000 of the Third Age. He was chosen as one of the Astari, or wizards, to be sent to Middle Earth, called Gandalf the Grey. So, yeah, like, in deep canon, I mean, the novel canon, like, yes, you're right. It's probably too early for him to show up.
But they can change it.
I think they're going to change it. I don't think they're not that. It's not that they're playing fast and loose, but it's, what fits their story. And I don't know. Maybe this is a completely new character. Could be.
Billy Bob the Blue.
Could be.
Theories his name isn't Billy Bob the Blue.
Okay.
I'm gonna write a bad review on Rotten Tomatoes and Amazon.
Moving on.
Tyler, what's your next question?
Moving on from the stranger before people get upset. What's up with the blade?
Oh, the Dark Blade?
Is that what we're
No,
talking about?
I don't know. It's an evil blade.
Yeah.
The Blood Blade.
I'm waiting for Arendelle Star to just tell me what it is.
Interesting. It obviously has some parallels with Aragorn's blade.
Yeah.
The sword that was broken. Or Isildur's.
And we're the flame of the west, forged from the shards of Nas.
Exactly. I just think there's some interesting parallels there. But it being probably a dark version. I would guess, based on what they've shown us of Sauron already, that it's not Sauron's blade.
Maybe one of his goons' blades.
Could be like a high-ranking lieutenant, or it could even be further back, something with Melkor. I don't know what He's got.
I think it's gonna turn old Theo into one of the ring wraiths.
Is he the one that gets the flaming torch in his face on?
That would be playing a little more fast and loose with lore, since the ring wraiths were traditionally
the kings of men.
9 kings of men who received rings.
Who's his dad?
Don't know.
The elf.
We don't know.
I might want to. Oh, I don't know if you're talking about theories yet.
Yeah, I mean, that symbol is there for sure. It's the symbol of Sauron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my guess. Whoever that kid's dad is, he's got some claim to some throne somewhere, and he's gonna become a ring wraith. Boom, stamping it.
Billy Bob the
Raise
Blue.
a clone. Going with that. That's Luke's old theory. From
Yeah,
Star
it
Wars.
probably is. I mean,
It's the best theory
A
ever.
Morgoth blade
It is.
in
It's
some regard. JT, I'm just not sure whose it was. Right.
Easton, I'm gonna answer your question in a little bit.
I bet that sounded really strange.
Look at that illustration of Melkor.
Okay.
There. Isn't that lovely?
Last question. Not a lore question.
Okay.
Not a weird question. Who's your favorite character so far?
Galadriel.
It's in between Galadriel and Arondir.
Arondir is my favorite.
I also really like Prince Durin.
Oh,
Yeah,
I find
Durin's
him
great.
very funny.
Yeah,
yes.
He's good.
Yeah.
I like them all, but my favorite is Arondir.
It's hard. I mean, the question could be, who's your least favorite, and I wouldn't know how to answer.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah,
answer
that
question.
would be
There's not a
harder.
character I dislike.
That would be harder.
The High King of the Elves.
Maybe?
Because he said Galadriel. Why would you?
The one elf who stood up to Galadriel.
Yeah.
that little turd.
Thondir?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Whatever his name was.
No, Galadriel, we're going home. We're cowards.
That's my last question.
No, I think that's a good one. Man, you know what?
Can't wait for water cooler
scene
talk on this one.
or
tomorrow.
section that tomorrow?
At work.
Oh, at work. Yeah, fair enough. The bit that I didn't expect to really even be in the show, but I really loved was Galadriel's at sea bit.
The worm.
The Leviathan worm, whatever it is, and
I hope the worm comes back.
the
I just want to see the whole thing.
again, and that's one of those. It was her. That was her choice, right? Go back to characters and choice. I always come back to characters and choices, and her deciding to not go through slight spoilers for episode 2 to the Undying Lands, to reject that, jump back into the sea and swim,
Probably a long ways.
oh, very long ways. I think that just speaks to her character. It's kind of like I've already forgotten how you pronounced his name. Arondir, and his decision to
Stay and help.
right? Like all the other elves are leaving, and he's like, I want to at least see if this is something that, I don't know, maybe it is.
Altruism.
Maybe it is a, he gets turned away right there, and he does walk back, but he's at least making that choice to try something, to see is this relationship something that could work.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Characters and choices make for good stories. The journey of Dead Fist, real quick. The journey of Galadriel letting go of her brother's oath will be an interesting one. Yes.
It's gonna be heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a
gonna
lot of
suck.
emotional baggage in there, and I don't know if we're getting it in one season. That may be a multi-season arc.
Yeah, that might be the show's arc.
Yeah,
the
in
overarching.
reality, it could be.
All right.